What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today we're going to be doing a full breakdown of the brand new JAK Deathmarch kit for the BAL-27 in Modern Warfare 3. And this kit is super interesting. Initially, based on the description they provided before this launched, it seemed like it was going to be turning this into a shotgun, but it turns out that's not actually the case. It turns it into a 5-round burst weapon with some interesting properties attached to it, like an extremely high damage value, so let's dive into that. And as we can see here, we deal 100 damage up close anywhere in the body. That includes the head. There's no headshot multiplier. Doesn't matter where you hit them, you're dealing 100 damage right up close and personal. And that will drop all the way down to 67 damage at long ranges. However, interestingly, unlike most guns in this game that have a step-down damage drop-off, this one has a linear damage drop-off. So that means at point-blank range, you're dealing 100 damage. But at 2 meters, you're now dealing about 98 damage. And that just continually drops off as you increase your range, all the way down to that 67 damage, which is its minimum damage. And if we contrast that with pretty much every other gun in the game, your maximum damage will have a certain range to it. So you deal that exact same damage value out to a range, and then the moment you step beyond that range, then it drops off to the next damage range. So that's one area that makes this very unique, and we'll look at the ranges in a bit more detail in just a little bit. But the next thing to look at here is our rate of fire. And like I said at the beginning, this is a 5-round burst. And there is a 350 millisecond pre-fire delay. This is where you sort of charge up the gun before it actually releases those 5 shots. So kind of like the P06 from Black Ops 3, you guys might remember that one. And this is quite a punishing pre-fire delay. You definitely want to be prepared for your fight before it happens, because if you come face to face with an enemy and you both react at the same time, chances are they're going to win that fight. Now, once we actually start firing, the rate of fire within each burst is really fast at about 1,200 rounds per minute. However, we have quite a long burst delay here at 550 milliseconds, keeping in mind that does include the pre-fire delay for the second burst. So technically, it's actually a 200 millisecond burst delay, but realistically speaking, you're going to have to wait 550 milliseconds before that second burst comes out. And therefore, that does make this quite an unforgiving gun. But to make up for that, our time to kill potential, once the gun actually fires after the pre-fire delay, is ridiculously fast at 50 milliseconds for a 2-shot kill and 100 milliseconds for a 3-shot kill. That is nearly instant in this game, so insanely fast, but of course, kept in check due to that really long pre-fire delay, so your effective time to kill when reacting to somebody is going to be more like 400 to 450 milliseconds, which is actually quite slow. Next up, let's look a little deeper into our ranges here, and again, just remember this is a linear damage drop-off, so we start losing damage immediately the moment we start moving back from the target. But the first thing to point out here is we deal at least 75 damage per shot out to about 24 meters. So that's where it drops off to a 3-shot kill. Anything after 24 meters is a 3-shot, anything within 24 meters is a 2-shot kill. And again, that applies anywhere in the body or head. And then another really important thing to point out here is we have a maximum hit potential where beyond 64 meters, we literally can't deal damage to a target. The shot just disappears at that point. So it's kind of like a shotgun in that sense. But unlike a shotgun, this is quite a long range, and realistically for 6v6 multiplayer, it should be pretty rare that you ever find yourself in those ranges. And this primarily will just affect your ability to fight back against certain aerial streaks that are going to be quite far away from you. But we will take a deeper look at how this competes against streaks in a little bit. Another big thing to point out here is our bullet velocity is ridiculous at 1,860 meters per second. What this means is, based on how they code bullet velocity, this gun is literally hit scan out to 93 meters, which is obviously beyond its maximum hit potential, and therefore this is a hit scan weapon. There is 0 travel time whatsoever with your shot. As for Hipfire, we get incredible Hipfire values compared to the base BAL-27. For both our minimum and maximum Hipfire spread, this is just 2 degrees, which is significantly tighter, and it can be treated in close quarters, kind of like a shotgun. After that though, let's have a look at our recoil, and as we can see here, there's actually quite a bit of recoil within each one of these bursts. Especially between the first and second shot, there tends to be a pretty big jump there. And this will significantly hold you back as you start stretching those ranges out. So ideally, you want to be putting attachments on that help with vertical recoil, or just make sure you're keeping yourself in more close quarters situations. It is also worth noting, in some ways this is treated like a shotgun, and therefore we do actually have a little bit of aim down sight spread. So even if you were able to eliminate all of your recoil with attachments, you would still have a small amount of inaccuracy due to that spread. But next up, let's get into our handling stats, and our aim down sight time is unchanged from the base BAL-27 at 240 milliseconds. Our sprint out time, on the other hand, is slowed down, and it's not great. It's 239 milliseconds. And keep in mind, that stacks on top of your pre-fire delay. So if you're in a sprint and you react to an enemy player, it's going to take you a very long time before you actually fire your gun. So you definitely don't want to get caught sprinting. And then when it comes to our reload add time, this is also identical to the base BAL-27 at 1.92 seconds. And then finally, for the base stats of this kit, let's have a look at our movement speeds, which across the board are all slower than the base BAL-27. However, at least our sprint speed is still pretty much average for an assault rifle. Outside of that, it is a bit on the slower side though. And with that, before I get into a couple of my favorite attachment combinations to use with this kit, I just wanted to have a brief section talking about this kit against score streaks. Because we have a lot of damage potential per bullet, and we fire 5 bullets in a very, very tight period of time, and therefore we can deal up to 500 damage almost instantly, and you would think that may be very good against streaks. Although, remember, we do have a linear damage drop-off and a maximum hit potential, so for any aerial streaks that are going to be flying beyond 64 meters away from you, you literally won't even be able to deal damage to them. And then even for the aerial ones that fly a little bit closer, like the VTOL or the attack chopper for instance, you're still not dealing a massive amount of damage, and while I wouldn't call it useless against those streaks, I would also say it's just not really a standout gun for taking them out. I definitely wouldn't hesitate to use this gun to help my team take out one of those streaks, but most likely you're going to need some support as well, and you're not likely going to be doing that too often by yourself. In saying that though, when it comes to ground-based streaks, this gun is really good at taking those out. Like a remote turret, for instance, you can see I took that out very, very quickly. I believe I actually destroyed it on the second burst, but you don't get an indication the moment you do destroy one of those. So that's something to keep in mind. This is excellent against ground-based streaks, not so great against aerial ones. And there we go. That finally wraps it up for the breakdown of this gun. Now let's get into my favorite attachment combinations to use, and I actually like both of these. The first one I want to share for you guys is my aim down sight setup. I treat this kind of like a mid-range sniper rifle, maybe like a DMR sort of. And with this one, we're using the Kimura Rin 3 vertical underbarrel, and that one's going to help a fair amount with our vertical recoil. We have the Corio Eagle's Eye 2.5x optic. I just really like that optic with this particular build. We have the Ardent tack stock to help a bit more with recoil, as well as the Channel M grip. That one also helps with recoil. And therefore, we are getting pretty much the best recoil control possible here, at least for vertical recoil control on this. And you can see the effects of that. There is still a decent amount of recoil per burst, but it is much more controlled than the base kit. Our aim down sight time on this is a little slower than the base, but still reasonable enough at 272 milliseconds. And our sprint out time is very slow, so this is not a sprinting around sort of a setup. You really want to try to get posted up with this one and prepared for your enemies. And overall, I do find this to be quite enjoyable to use if you treat it right. You want to play a little more methodically with this type of a build. However, I do have a build that's slightly more suited to aggression, and this is my Hipfire build with the JAK Deathmarch. And with this one, the key is the Scarlet Box Laser. This one gives you 0 spread when hip firing, even when strafing, which is quite surprising with this gun. Usually if you strafe with this laser on other guns, it will massively increase your maximum hip fire spread, but you only really see that when you're jumping or sliding with this. So you can actually strafe and still be pretty much pinpoint accurate with this. But on top of that, we do have the SL Skeletal Vertical Underbarrel to help a bit with vertical recoil while also improving handling stats slightly. We also once again have the Ardent tack stock and the Channel M grip, and this gives us quite an accurate gun in hipfire. Our aim down sight speed is nicely improved as well, so you can still aim down sight if you feel like the situation calls for it, which I will often do with this setup still. Our sprint out time is improved from the base kit, but still not quite as good as the base BAL-27 at 219 milliseconds. And that's pretty much all there is to say about this one. I would definitely use this more on the super close quarters maps compared to the previous build, but honestly, I find both of these setups to be quite solid, and I will use them just fine interchangeably. And with that, that is going to wrap it up today's breakdown on the brand new JAK Deathmarch kit for the BAL-27. And when it comes to my thoughts on this one, I love the addition of this kit. I find it to offer a really unique challenge with that pre-fire delay. I don't think it's completely overpowered because of that pre-fire delay. It really keeps that insane time to kill potential in check. And it really just performs essentially nothing like anything else we see in the game. I guess you could argue the closest thing would be the photonic charge barrel on the MWIII sniper rifle, but even then, this does have some distinct differences from that, and I do think it is a lot of fun to use as sort of a niche style weapon. Now, of course, these are just my thoughts, and I'd love to hear from you guys in those comments down below. How are you feeling about the JAK Deathmarch kit so far? If you enjoyed this one, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.